This is why this is not really my show, it's his show. I've just been running my mouth on it for 7 years. He was the author and the orchestrator.
And so that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping to give people the wake-up call, the gut punch they need so that they finally take action. Because most people that read self-help books, they become shelf help. They open it up, they read a page or two, they put it on the shelf and it stays there. Some people get through the book and then they go back to their bullshit habits. I'm hoping that this is a system that will actually drive action and shrink the gap between where they are and where they can get to.
Welcome back to another episode of The Burn. I am Ben Newman, and you know how we do this every single week. We're going to bring you a story of an athlete, an entertainer, a celebrity, somebody from the business world who helps us understand that why and purpose is not enough. It's that underlying burn that ignites your why and purpose and causes you to show up on the days you don't feel like it, and especially after you win. Now, everybody knows our guest because we are setting a record today. This is Drew's third time on The Burn.
Let's go.
But today is a very, very special episode because we're going to be discussing the release of his book. It'll be this February. This is one of the most highly anticipated books to come out for all of 2025. There's already been magazines and newspapers writing about the release of this book. The book is called Stop Bullshitting Yourself. So before I bring Drew on, because I have some amazing questions about this book, I want to tell you guys something really special for me in our relationship. We've known each other for years and years and years, over 10 years. And Drew is one of those individuals who calls it to me straight when I need to hear it, when I need to stop bullshitting myself. That's why today's episode of The Burn is the first episode of Series 7. But what's interesting is The Burn wouldn't even be a podcast if Drew in LA, sitting in a hotel, didn't look at me and basically say, brother, stop bullshitting yourself. When are you going to start a podcast? So when you think about everything that you've already committed to kick off this year, you're going to have a choice. Either choose the disciplines to make those things a reality, or you're going to choose at some point in time to bullshit yourself. I am so grateful that Drew has always been one of those friends, really mentor, coach to me, to help me stop bullshitting myself and put action behind beliefs. 7 years later, and here we are, and here's The Burn. So if you've been impacted by The Burn, you can thank Drew. But what I know is important to Drew before we get into this is that you choose to stop bullshitting yourself. The things that hold you back are the things that you change your disciplines, your mindset on. And that's what this book is all about. This is not a book of just fun stories about the amazing things he's done. I mean, heck, the foreword is written by Joel Embiid and Jayson Tatum. I mean, you're talking about some of the greatest athletes to ever walk the face of the earth. He's done it. But what's most important is that you take the tools. These aren't stories. These are tools. These are processes. These are systems that have been proven to help some of the greatest in the world achieve, and now he's been doing it in the business world behind the scenes for years. So are you ready? Because 2025 is here. No more bullshitting yourself. It is time to attack. Drew Hanlen, record-setting Drew Hanlen on The Burn. Welcome back to The Burn.
I was going to say, because I was the one that encouraged you to start, I feel like any time that I want to be on, I got the free hall pass to be on. But no, you nailed the intro. I mean, to be honest with you, there's two things that I think are pretty funny about the book. The first one was, because I have such an audience, a big following of younger athletes, when I first started bringing this book to life, I remember the publisher and editor were like, don't use a cuss word in the title because you might not sell as many books. And I said, to be honest with you, my goal is not to sell a ton of books because, I want to make more money, or I said, I want to be able to impact people's lives. And I said, there's nothing better than to be able to shoot it straight to them and tell them exactly what they need, which is to stop bullshitting themselves. And I really do think that when you unwrap that a little further, if you think about all the excuses, and a lot of them are justifiable excuses that are really holding you back, a lot of times it's just you holding yourself back. It might be somebody that says, like my dad before he started his weight loss journey, where he's like, he's a butcher, and he says, Drew, I don't need to get skinny. And plus, no one will trust a skinny butcher. Listen, I understand that, like, you don't want to, to justify, these things, but, like, people will trust a skinny butcher as long as you're, they'll trust you more if you're a fit butcher, because that's what they want to do. And so that's a justifiable excuse. It might be somebody that says, I need 8 hours of sleep, so that's why I can't wake up early and shoot 1,000 shots before school every single day. Well, then go to sleep earlier, or figure out a way to realign your day so that your priority of getting yourself better at basketball can match up with the things that you want to do. It might be somebody that wants to improve their family life, and they're spending all this time at a job they hate, and they're saying, man, I wish my family life, if you really wished it, you could readjust everything so that you can pour into your family, spend more time, be more present. And so I really do think that, the results that we want are on the other side of the work that we avoid. So that was the first part, is they wanted me to change the title, and I wouldn't do it because I said, I don't care if I sell more books. I want everyone to be able to be impacted by this, and that's what they need to know. The heart of the message is stop bullshitting yourself. If you fight your battles internally, then you can win externally and internally. And then the second part about it is when I first started, it was like every other book, every other self-help book, where a ton of great stories and it pieced together. And I said, you know what, the one thing I can't stand when I'm reading self-help books is when I feel like I'm just reading about why somebody else has won. I want every single section to be about the reader. And so in the book, you fill out your own stuff as you go on. So the first thing is the audit. And you actually audit the things that are going on in your life in real time. It's asking you questions, you're filling it out in real time. And then the second thing is now we got the audit. We've taken a look at why we are where we are. Now we got to look at where we want to go. And then we got to look at the gap that exists between where we are and where we want to go. And that gap that exists, we have to find ways to shrink that gap. And so then we design a blueprint. In real time, you're actually locking in on one thing. What's the one thing that will make the biggest improvement to your life? Okay, and then we break that down in a systematic way of how are you going to go about building it up. And then by the time that they actually put together their starter steps and apply all the principles, when they finish this book, they're going to have an action plan that'll actually let them get the results that they've always wanted. And so then it only comes down to the last part of the book, which is the work. Putting in what I call the unseen hours and actually following the exact blueprint you built. But I really do think that somebody that invests the time to read a book and to actually go through and apply these principles and apply the system to their life, at the end of the book, if you have the system, then the only question left is, are you willing to put in the work that can get you from where you are to where you want to be? And I think that the impactful stories will allow that question to be a very easy yes. And I don't really care about the book launch in February. I care about, in next time around Christmas, when I'm getting the emails of the transformations, my business changed, my life changed, my weight changed, my game changed. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
See, one of the things that I love about the book, and you're hitting on all of it, is the details that you go into with some of these exercises. And it's one of the things that I've always admired about your work and how you've been able to help me. And I think a lot of people, they see my work and they're like, oh, he does all this work in sports. Like 30% of my work is sports, 70% is corporate. And I think that's the piece where a lot of people don't realize about you is the impact you're actually having in the corporate world, the impact that you're having with businesses, the impact that you're having with sales teams and growth of individuals outside of sports. And one of the things that I've seen, which has just been beautiful to watch as a friend, is not only the success you've had in the sports world, but the success you've had in the business world, the success you've had for me in my business. And what I think it comes down to is those details. And I want to talk about details, but before I do, you put so much detail into this book. I was joking around sending you text messages like, you need to stop bullshitting yourself and release this book already. But I did it knowing that the response was going to be, no, I'm doing this right. And I want everybody to realize when you have these goals, right? Because I want people to watch this interview today and say, okay, this is the first episode of the year. We're right in January. Don't bullshit yourself, but you got to live in the details. Follow a book like this that gives you the plan. But why are details and the slow, methodical process repeated over time, why is that so important that you've learned to do things right as opposed to fast and done?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to me, a quote where, I heard a quote a long time ago, consistency trumps intensity. And I love that because I was like, most people have these intense moments of motivation. It's hey, I'm going to lose a bunch of weight. And so that day they go and they get a really good hard workout. They have salad every meal. They're drinking water and nothing else. And then the next day they're so sore, they're so fatigued that they go right back to bullshitting themselves and go right back to the bad habits that led them to the weight problem that they were experiencing before that motivational moment. And so then I go, the consistency part, those things that we deem small over time, done consistently, actually turn into big, massive results. But the one thing I didn't ever like about that quote of consistency trumps intensity is I was like, I like consistency and intensity. And so I love when you can start small, build consistent streaks. There's one principle in there that talks about never missing 2 in a row, and you think about it, if you're doing a workout plan, and let's say, New Year's, new me, and everybody's all excited. All November, they're tweeting, hashtagging what they're going to do in the new year. And I'm like, if you really cared, you'd start, now. You wouldn't wait till Monday. You wouldn't wait till December 1 or January 1. But New Year, new me starts. January 6th, everyone goes back off their, they fall off the rocker. They said they were going to not drink for the whole month of January. And that first Saturday comes. They're out with their friends. And they're like, come on, man, just one shot. They take the one shot. And then they're like, I already broke my promise to myself. I might as well just, have a fun night. And then they feel bad, and now it's Saturday, and they say, I'm going to start over on Monday. And to me, the 100% is easier than 90%, which is a concept that I've used my entire life. 100%. I've never drank an alcohol. I'm 35 years old. Not one sip. I've turned down $10,000 for one shot. I've never smoked. I've never done drugs. There's a bunch of things I just don't do because that one decision that I makes a ton of smaller decisions for me. I never have to ask myself, is tonight the night I'm going to drink? Is tonight the night I'm going to have one shot? Is tonight the night that if I have one shot is 2 or 3, is that okay? My one decision, I am not a drinker, then makes all the other previous, post decisions. And so when I think about the consistency over intensity, I think most people don't build enough momentum to ever get real results. And they don't build enough momentum to give themselves confidence. And I really do think that the main principle in this book is not just eliminating your excuses, but it's also eliminating your excuses and building the confidence to finally, go out and do whatever you want to do. Because I think that's where most people get hung up. Most people, when you talk about the details, they can even break down a good plan, but then they don't have the confidence that they're going to follow through because if they look at the past, the evidence says you're not going to follow through. And so it's about building a detailed plan, but then also having that internal drive, the burn that fuels kind of the momentum, the consistency part, that eventually then you start doing the intensity part. And if you combine those two, I think that, everything's important. So the details to me is all about breaking things down from a big audacious goal into realistic steps that you're actually going to do, not on just the days you feel great, but on the days you feel like shit. And I feel like that's when the people that truly win, really win, is those moments of you know what, I want a shortcut, but I'm not going to shortcut. I want to cheat, but I'm not going to cheat. I want to skip that workout, but I'm not going to skip. I want to have that unhealthy meal, but I'm not going to. Those individual little moments build that confidence in you that, you know what, if I made that one decision and it worked for me, I can do it again, and I can do it again. And I feel like that's what winners do, is they constantly make these little decisions that seem so irrelevant in the moment, but it builds this internal belief system that says, I am bigger and better than anything that comes at me that's going to try to get me off of my path to where I want to get to.
It makes me think of a quote that have to give credit to my dear friend Erwin McManus, pastor in LA. And Erwin always talks about how your confidence comes from your discipline, not your talent. And a lot of people think that, especially stop bullshitting yourself. Okay, well, I would set this goal with you, Drew, but I don't have this, I don't have that. And we have to remember, when you say but, it negates what you said before it. So you have to step into belief. How often are you meeting people in the corporate world or the sports world? They don't even give them a chance to start becoming disciplined because, I wasn't given that talent. I wasn't given that speed. I wasn't given this. And we hear it a lot. I think of the time I've spent with Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice will tell you, I was not the fastest guy. I was not the most athletic guy, but I was willing to outwork anybody. How does that apply to the corporate world, not just athletes?
It's funny, there's a section in the book that literally says everything before but is bullshit. And it really is, because if you think we have all of these lofty goals, we have all of these expectations on ourselves, and then we justify it with a justifiable excuse. You think about somebody that is trying to get more sales, and they start talking about, oh, my region doesn't have as many people, I don't get as many things handed to me, I have to actually cold call people. And I'm like, if you wanted it bad enough, you'd figure out a way. And the thing that I always check people on in the corporate world is I usually go to this and I say, if someone you loved relied on you to get that many sales, could you get that many sales? And when they hear it like that, they're like, of course. Like if I was like, hey, think about the person you love most. And they're like, okay, I got that person in my mind. And I'm like, how many sales are you getting? And they're like, I'm getting 4 a week. I'm like, great. How many do you want to get? They're like, 8 a week. I'm like, perfect. Could you get, not 8, could you get 12 sales a week if you didn't, that person you loved, end up spending a year in jail, end up, not being here with us anymore? Of course I'd figure out a way. Okay, why? Because now it means more. So what you got to do is 4 to 8, you're looking at it as just straight sales, which you don't really care about. You say you do, but you really don't care about. You need something that's going to fuel that action as much as keeping a loved one alive, keeping a loved one out of jail. Like, that is what you need. And so I really just think that most of the time, people don't have something fueling them enough. And so instead, they live with that gap of, I need 4, I need to get to 8. There's a gap of 4 that I just can't shrink. And they have all these excuses for it. But if they wanted it bad enough, they'd find a way. And that's what it's about. It's about shrinking the gap. There's a cool story in there.
Let me capture something really quick. I got to capture this really quick because Drew just said it. Go back 7 years to when I was bullshitting myself for all the reasons why I wasn't going to start a podcast. I'm too busy. I'm too this. I don't have this set up. And Drew just looked at me and he said, when's the first episode? And I said, well, Ben, when's the first? And he just made me go for it. And I did it. That's the burn. What he is just talking about is that fuel. Many people understand their why and purpose. Every episode you hear me say this. So my why and purpose, I want to provide for my family. I want to do X, Y, and Z. Those are so meaningful. I've never said that they're not. But the burn is, what if your family couldn't eat if you didn't do what you needed to do from a discipline standpoint today? That then becomes the burn. The burn is, if I don't do my disciplines, my family doesn't eat. That burn fuels the why and purpose, provides for the family, and causes you to win. So this is why this is not really my show, it's his show. I've just been running my mouth on it for 7 years. He was the author and the orchestrator. But that's what I want you to capture. When you hear him say fuel, it's that underlying piece that triggers you to then ignite that why and purpose, which I say every single week. I just wanted to capture that.
No, that's great. There's a story in the book that's really cool, and it talks about this, overweight dad. And this overweight dad, this family kept saying, hey, we want you to get in shape. You need to get in shape. We want you to get in shape. And he wanted to get in shape, but he never was willing to go all in. He always found reasons to not go all in. And sure enough, his daughter got, to the point where she needed a kidney. Well, the first thing that you do when you need a kidney is they check everybody in the family and see if there's anybody that is, that has the same blood type and same, they're a willing donor. And sure enough, the dad was a perfect match. The problem was the dad was so overweight, they said, if we put you on the operating table, you could lose your life. He said, I don't care, They said, we can't do it. It's illegal. If we think that you're not healthy enough to do the procedure, we can't put you on that operating table. He said, well, how long does my daughter have? He said 6 months to a year probably. That's when the kind of health complications will really go south. He said, okay. The dad ended up losing 100 pounds in a calendar year. At the 9-month mark, ended up taking the kidney out, successful operation to save his daughter's life. That's what the burn is on a highest level. Think about that. A dad that made excuse after excuse, and he almost wasn't able to provide for his daughter because of his bad decisions, because of his laziness, because of his excuses. But then finally, when his daughter really needed him, he finally had enough passion, enough purpose, enough fuel, enough burn to go all in, to lose that much weight so that he could give that kidney up. And it's so cool because, I've had my dad, same thing. My dad wouldn't get in shape. And then I finally said, I got him in the driveway, And I said, listen, I don't care if you have a six-pack. You're married, you have kids, you have grandkids. We don't care if you have a six-pack. We don't care what you look like on a beach. We want you alive. And if you keep making the same decisions you've been making, you're going to be like my grandpa, who we lost 10 years before we could have. I said, do you realize how much pain that my grandma, your mom, lives with because she doesn't have her soulmate with her? That's because your dad, my grandpa, didn't make the decisions early enough to save his life. Do you realize that every time that it's your dad, my grandpa's birthday, when you go visit his gravesite and you go take a shot of Jameson with him, he could actually be taking a shot with you if he made different decisions. We don't want to live with that same pain. And I gave him that, and I remember him like, my dad's a manly man. Never see him cry. He starts like kind of tearing up. The next morning was the first day that he walked around the block. And he's down 50 pounds now. He was down 90 pounds, then started bullshitting himself, went up, and now he's back down. And I keep telling him, I'm like, Pops, I am taking you out of the book if you don't get back on your shit. And that's what got him going again. Because I literally told him, I said, everybody is going to look, and they're going to be like, where is that chapter you talked about with your dad losing the weight? And I said, he put it back on, so he got taken out. And that's what got him back going on. But that's what it is. You have to find these internal drives, these motivating factors. And at the end of the book, I talk about just looking at your life. Like, imagine at the end of your life, if you got to go to heaven, and before you went in to get the pearly gates, they handed you an iPad or whatever they got, some special cooler version of it. And they said, hey, watch this. And they're like, what is this? This is what your life could have been if you made all the right decisions, all the right choices, surrounding yourself with people that motivated you instead of people that drained you. And you got to watch what your life could have been. Most of us would start bawling tears. Man, I just didn't know that I was capable of it. And so that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping to get people the wake-up call, the gut punch they need so that they finally take action. Because most people that read self-help books, they become shelf-help. They open it up, they read a page or two, they put it on the shelf, and it stays there. Some people get through the book, and then they go back to their bullshit habits. I'm hoping that this is a system that will actually drive action and shrink the gap between where they are and where they can get to.
Before I ask the final question, I want to do something that I don't need your approval for. We've been friends long enough; I can do whatever I want. So I'm gonna do it. A couple of things I want to mention. Number one, we are going to make it so easy for you to have the opportunity to pick up a copy of the book, to be able to follow Drew, to be able to sign up for updates for the book, to sign up for the release. There's some very special things for some unique opportunities. I'm going to encourage you to go and follow Drew on social media so you can learn about these experiences, unique experiences with with NBA players and training sessions and things that most people could never have exposure to that you could have exposure to. I also want to do something really special. For the first 10 basketball coaches that reach out to me, I don't care what level that it is, I'm going to personally our team is going to buy copies for your entire team of the book. But I want you to write a quick email, bnewman@bennewman.net. That's my personal email. So hit me with a personal email, and I want to hear why your team is not going to bullshit themselves, but they're actually going to implement the things in the book. Because if you're listening to what Drew's saying, we don't want you to buy the book and put it on a shelf. We want you to take action. So the first coaches, I'm buying books for your teams, but I want an email stating why we should send them to your team. So you got to prove that you got a little bit of a burn and a little bit of a fire. I want to share something that I just saw in Drew's eyes. You know, we're locked in here in this interview, and you didn't get a chance to see his eyes with what I just saw. But there was a fire and energy that just showed up in your eyes when you talked about family and grandpa. And I think a lot of times what people don't see, and I've been blessed because of our friendship to be able to see a side of Drew that many people don't get to see. I've been in this very gym here at Webster Groves where he helped put this high school on the map in St. Louis, winning a state championship. I've heard countless stories of him coming back, even today, coming back, and as I show up to the gym, he's speaking to the Webster Groves basketball team. He's helped kids well beyond his graduation date, darn near 20 years ago, come back and give to these kids. He's about serving, he's about giving because there's this fire. I've watched him have these camps here to raise money for Haiti in honor of his little sister Lulu. It's amazing how he lives his life. It's amazing how he honors family. And so when you read this book, I want you to find things you can commit to that are bigger than you. That's part of the burn. So it's not just you figuring out the best you that you can be. It's how you can be the best example for others, and you continue to do that. And I love how you show up in life. I probably don't mention it to you this enough because you start giving me shit and teasing me because he realizes he's one of the, when you're really close friends with somebody, you can dish out shit, and I get so much shit from him. Sometimes I try to create a serious moment, he just hits me with jokes. But it really is meaningful how you show up as an example for others. And I know this is the final question, you know, for me, my mom is my burn, and my mom is my example. I got to give your mom a big hug and wish her a Merry Christmas. She was here with your nephew Brody today. And there's a chapter in this book, which when I first had the chance to read through it and you told me about it, and it's something we've talked about before, is the mama mentality. And it's going to make me emotional just thinking about the impact my mom's had, but knowing that I got to see your mom today. I know how much your mom means to you. And I know that your dad is still in the book, which is a good thing.
He's been walking every day. He stayed in there, yep.
But this is not Mamba mentality. This is mama mentality. How important has your mom's example and her mentality been for you to do what you've done in your life?
Yeah, I mean, it was, to be honest with you, it's funny because that, the mama mentality quote actually just came up on stage. I was doing a keynote, and I was thinking about Kobe Bryant, who I had a chance to, you know, work with and spend time with. And I was like, everybody talks about, you know, these great athletes, they have the it factor. And to me, the it factor is they're willing to do anything and everything to get whatever they're trying to accomplish done. And it doesn't matter what it is. It is like, we don't care what we have to do to get what we want. We're going to do that. And I said, every athlete has the it factor. And I was like, you know, if you think about some of the great athletes, you think about like guys like Kobe Bryant, they had Mamba mentality, which meant like the constant quest to become one's best self. But I was like, wait, there's another level of that. And to me, it's what you call the burn and what I call mama mentality, where I was like, I think back to my mom, who is the most selfless person that I've ever met. And I'm like, she literally dedicated her entire life to just making sure that us kids, had the best possible lives that we could. And it was by bootstrapping. It was by doing everything that she could with the resources we had. You know, we grew up and we weren't well off, you know what I mean? But we didn't know if we wanted Abercrombie clothes, she would go find it at a garage sale, or we'd go to a reuse-it store. If my sisters wanted to go into an all-girls school, a private school that cost a bunch of money, she actually started cleaning houses, which means she was scrubbing toilets. She didn't love scrubbing toilets. She loved the smile on my face that my sisters had to be able to go to school that they actually wanted to go to. You know, we didn't have enough money to have a personal basketball trainer, but my dad would wake up every morning and teach me how to lift weights before school, and my mom would rebound after school. And so what I'm saying is, not everybody has a winning hand. They're not dealt a winning hand. But I do believe that everybody can play the cards they have and make it a winning hand. And that's what mama mentality to me is I've watched my mom make countless sacrifices. So many sacrifices that don't get applauded, that don't get credit, but she just does it because she wants the best for us. I've also seen her pour her entire life into my little sister Lulu, where when we had Lulu, she had hydrocephalus, which means overflow water in her head. And it created, the pressure of the water damaged parts of her brain where they didn't know if her life expectancy, we didn't know if she was going to get to a second birthday. And I saw my mom when we brought her back down to Haiti. Normally we would take in, babies from third world countries. We would have them here and host them while they got, surgeries. And then we'd bring them back to their families. And when we saw her get sick in Haiti, and she was losing, literally she went from 15 pounds to like 8 pounds. My mom flew back down to Haiti, and with the blessing of her family, who also wanted, the best life for Lulu, were like, the best life is with you guys in America. And so for that mom, Lulu's mom, and for her dad to be able to say, we're handing over one of our kids to a host family just because we want the best for our daughter, Lulu. And then for my mom to say, I'm willing to sacrifice, I'm willing to pour into this little baby girl that right now they're not saying that her life expectancy is that long. And then now she's 18 years old, happy and healthy. Yeah, I remember when they didn't think that she was going to be able to walk, and my mom would take her leg and move it, and then take her other leg and move it, and be like, look, guys, she's walking. And we'd be like, okay, yeah, she's walking. And then, sure enough, she had this specialized walker, and you saw her kind of start doing this. And now she can walk. And now she learns how to communicate. She's nonverbal, but she can hand us a plate if she's hungry, and hand us a cup if she's thirsty, and clap if she likes the show that she's watching, and cross her hands if she doesn't. Like, it's because my mom poured so much love. It wasn't energy, it wasn't money, it was love that she poured into her. But she poured that same amount of love into us. She's poured that same amount of love into so many people in the community. And that to me is a winning life. To me, I've watched 100 millionaires, I've watched billionaires go home and have millions of fans and not be a fan of themselves. I've watched them cry themselves to sleep. And so I'm like, what is winning? Winning is the ability to smile because you have internal peace, and it's also to be able to give that internal peace to others and see them smile as well. And so that's what this book's about. It's about winning, professionally and winning personally. And I really do think that if you can beat what I call the deep games, the games that are taking place in your head and your heart that you might not even know you're playing, if you can win those games, you can start living a life of internal peace and external success, which is the ultimate blend that everybody should be after.
I have nothing to say after that other than thank you. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for the impact that you continue to have on me. Thank you for helping me continue to not bullshit myself. And to each and every single one of you, the only final thing I'll say is make sure that you send those emails so we can find some teams that need the book. And you know what? Just after hearing that passion again, I'm going to double it. I'm going to do 20 teams. So also make sure that you follow Drew, you follow the details, you get connected, because this is going to be a book that is going to change lives. Stop bullshitting yourself. Make it immediate. Put forth the action. I know this book can change your life. How do I know? Because of the impact he's had and the change he's had on my life. So make sure that you follow Drew. Make sure that you stay connected to the release of the book in February. And Drew, I can't thank you enough, brother.
Appreciate you, my man.
This has been The Burn, and until next week, remember, you have to identify that underlying burn. That's what ignites that why and purpose and causes you to show up on the days you don't feel like it, and especially after you win.